Welcome, fifth grade, to the second math lesson of our second semester here in January of 2021. Pull out the paper in the second sheet of your paper packet, and at the top it should say 4.7 class activity. Today we're going to be studying decimal shift patterns, okay? Remember, we studied shift patterns last semester when we were talking about multiplying by 10, 100, and 1,000. The same goes when I'm multiplying by tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. All right? Let's jump into our first example. First example today, let's take a simple one. Let's say 24 times 1. Oh, that's not too hard. Okay. Well, what about 24 times 1/10? That makes it a little bit harder, doesn't it? Let's do one more. 24 times 1/100th. I'm not so sure about that, Mr. Ivan. Well, let's try to clear things up a little bit. Let's do the top one. That should be pretty easy. 24 times 1 gets you 24. All right, now when I multiply by decimals, the first thing I'm going to do is ignore the decimal, and I won't worry about it until I write my answer, my final answer. So again, tell me, what's 24 times 1? Well, it's still 24, isn't it? Good. Now let's go back to what we learned last lesson. I need to have the same amount of decimal places as I did in my problem. So in my problem, how many numbers are to the right of the decimal? Well, 24 doesn't have a decimal place, but 1/10 does. One number is to the right of the decimal point. That means in my answer, one number needs to be to the right of the decimal point, which one number right there is a 4. My decimal point goes right here. So my answer becomes 2 4/10. Now let's do that again on the bottom one. Again, ignore the decimal point and just tell me, what's 24 times 1? Hey, that's still 24, isn't it? Okay. Let me give a little bit more space here. 24. Whoops. There we go. All right. Now let's worry about the decimal point. How many numbers are to the right of the decimal point in the problem? Well, I only see one decimal point in the problem. There it is. How many numbers are to the right of it? 1, 2. All right, that means in my answer, I need to have 1, 2 numbers to the right of the decimal point. There's the decimal point, and so you see your decimal point is in front of the 2, so I'd read it as 24 hundredths. And to help us understand that there's no whole numbers, I'm going to put a 0 here. Okay? So what pattern did you notice in these 3 problems? Well, they all had a 24 in the problem, and they all had it multiplied by 1. All of the answers had a 2 and a 4. The only difference was, where's the decimal point? On this one, technically the decimal point's right here. We usually don't put a decimal point, though, if we're talking about whole numbers. So I have 24 wholes. On the second one, the decimal point's right in the middle. So I'd read it as 2.4 or 2 4/10. And on the third one, the decimal point is before the 2. So I'd read it as 0.24 or 0 24 hundredths. All right, let's take a look at a real life example of this. All right, take a look with me at the top of your worksheet. You have the 3 children there by the whiteboard. Let's read the word problem together. It says Marla earns $324 a month. Let's put that down here. $324. And remember, or this is something actually new for you. When you are looking at whole numbers, there's always a decimal point. We just usually don't write it. It's right here after the last number. All right, so she makes $324 a month. She will save some of her money every month. So let's suppose that she saves 1/10 of her $324 every month. All right, this is a really good life example. It's a good idea to save some of your money every month. Well, if she's saving 1/10, okay, multiply by 0 and 1/10. Let's figure out how much money she's going to save if she's saving 1/10 of her money. Well, what's 324 times 1? Very good, it's still 324, isn't it? But how many decimal points are in the question? Well, I wrote this one here. Are there any numbers to the right of that? No. So let's go to the next one. There's a decimal point. Are there any numbers to the right of it? Yes, there is. 1. That means in my answer, I need to have one number to the right of the decimal point. 32 and 4/10. But remember, we're talking about money. And typically, when we have talking about money, we put 2 digits in the cents. So we'll write a 0 at the end. Now does that start to look a little bit more like money? Yes, you're seeing, let's draw the dollar sign, $324. Saving 1/10 of it becomes $32.40. So she knows that she's putting away $32.40 every month, and that's her 10th. Here's why we call it the shift pattern. Because did my digits change? Let's look. 3, 2, 4. Let's look at our answer. 3, 2, 4. Hey, the digits are the same. So what's the only thing that changed? The only thing that changed is where the decimal point was. Here it was. When I multiply it by 1/10, it shifted one place. Okay? Went from here, shifted one place to move in between the 2 and the 4. And that has a big change because now instead of talking about $324, we're talking about $32.40. All right, put that into practice today on 4.7 class activity.